The first generation 300ZX, like many other cars born in the 1980s, had the option of an elaborate digital dashboard, full of bars and 7-segment numbers glowing from vacuum fluorescent displays. It was unapologetically characteristic of the time. Over time, these dashes frequently quit working due to poor solder joints or failed components, but I was fortunate that mine still worked just fine. So naturally, I had to do something about that. Flashback to a couple of years ago, I was asking a question in a group on Facebook. I threw an old instrument cluster in the empty pocket on my dashboard so I could take a photo that would grab people's attention. And it did, but not for what I was asking. This one comment got me thinking. Now there was no reason I couldn't swap in some other cluster. People have done it before. But if I was going to go through all this trouble, it at least had to be a cool one. The newer Mustangs had a very nice full digital dashboard, but these were simply out of reach for me. PyDash was an option, but I just didn't feel like it had the performance and fluidity I would have liked. I searched for a while, and I came across another interesting one from Ford. While it's not fully digital, this cluster used in Ford Explorers, among other Ford and Lincoln models, offered a unique blend of physical and digital elements that I really liked. And it was fairly easy to get. Easy to use? Well, not exactly. See, these clusters operate almost exclusively over a CAN bus network. You can give it power, but without sending it the correct data via CAN bus, it won't even turn on. So I went and collected some data from a few Ford models and spent countless hours testing various messages to determine their functions and get the cluster to work on the bench. Since my 300ZX is from 1986 and has never heard of a complex differential high-speed communication bus, I designed and built a custom interface board that will take the analog signals from my 300ZX and translate them to the digital data the cluster needs. I also had to modify the cluster main board, since the Explorer fuel tank has 2 fuel level senders, and the 300ZX only uses 1. Now for my favorite part. The original faceplate was okay, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I designed a new one. And then I designed it again. A few custom parts later, and it was looking just how I wanted. I designed everything so I could assemble it into a modified original cluster housing from the 300. During my research, I also found a group of really wise folks online had found a way to modify the firmware for these clusters. I took this as an opportunity to make a few graphical changes while I was at it. I also built a simple control interface for the UI of the cluster that uses a forward mirror switch. Infected by a case of, while I'm in theirs, I took this project as an opportunity to reverse engineer and build a transponder key system using original Nissan parts. This way I could add an extra layer of security to the whole car. Overall, I'm really happy with how this project turned out. It's been years in the making. Who knows? Maybe in a few more years, I'll even install it in the car.